Imagine two people. Both earn the same salary, both live in the same city. Fast forward 20 years. One is financially free, traveling the world, sleeping peacefully at night. The other is drowning in debt, constantly stressed, wondering where it all went wrong. What went differently? It wasn't their IQ. It wasn't their degree. It wasn't even their income. It was how they thought about money. Morgan Housel spent years studying how people across the world relate to wealth. The millionaires who went broke, the modest earners who built empires, and everyone caught somewhere in between. What he discovered is that finance isn't really a hard science driven by spreadsheets and formulas. It's a soft science driven by behavior, psychology, emotion, and personal history. Your relationship with money is shaped less by what you know and more by how you feel, what you've lived through, and the stories you tell yourself. In this video, we're going to break down 8 powerful ideas from his book that can completely reshape the way you earn, spend, save, and invest. The 8th one in particular is something almost everyone gets wrong, and it quietly destroys more wealth than any market crash ever could. So stay with me until the very end.
Rule 1. Your personal experience is a tiny fraction of what's happening in the world. Here's something that sounds obvious but is surprisingly difficult to internalize. The world is enormous, and your direct experience of it is almost nothing. You've lived maybe 20, 30, 40 years on this planet. You've seen certain things happen in your neighborhood, your workplace, your country, and based on that small sliver of reality, your brain builds an entire model of how the world works. It tells you what's safe, what's risky, what's smart, what's foolish. But here's the catch. Your model is built on an absurdly tiny sample size. Someone who grew up during a decade of economic boom will believe that markets always go up. Someone who watched their parents lose everything in a recession will believe that investing is gambling. Both are drawing conclusions from real experience, but neither experience is the full picture. Morgan Housel makes the point that the generation you were born into, the family you were raised by, and the neighborhood you grew up in have an outsized influence on how you view money, and most of those factors had nothing to do with your choices. A person born in 1950s America experienced the greatest bull market in history and naturally developed enormous faith in stocks. A person born in the same decade in a country experiencing hyperinflation might view any form of paper currency with deep suspicion. Neither person is irrational. They're both responding rationally to what they've seen, but what they've seen is wildly different. The danger comes when you mistake your limited perspective for universal truth. You start saying things like, real estate always goes up, or the stock market is rigged, or debt is always evil. And these beliefs become invisible fences that trap your financial thinking. The solution isn't to abandon your experience. It's to constantly remind yourself that there are billions of data points you've never encountered. Read widely. Talk to people whose financial lives look nothing like yours. Study eras you didn't live through. The more you expand your sample size, the better your financial decisions become.
Rule 2. Nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. We love clean narratives. Someone built a billion-dollar company from their garage. They must be a genius. Someone went bankrupt. They must be reckless. But reality is far messier than our narratives allow. Behind every so-called genius, there were countless moments of pure luck, right timing, right connections, right market conditions. Behind every so-called failure, there were often qualities of discipline and intelligence that simply collided with forces beyond anyone's control. Think about the entrepreneurs who launched incredible businesses in late 2019. Great products, smart strategies, passionate teams. Then a global pandemic arrived and obliterated their market overnight. Were they bad entrepreneurs? Of course not. They were blindsided by something no spreadsheet could have predicted. Now flip that coin. Think about the people who launched mediocre products during a frothy, overfunded market and stumbled into massive valuations. Were they visionaries? Not necessarily. They were riding a wave they didn't create. Housel calls this the dance between luck and risk, and he insists that you can never fully separate the two. When something goes spectacularly right, some of it was your effort, and some of it was fortune smiling on you. When something goes spectacularly wrong, some of it was your mistake, and some of it was the universe being indifferent. The practical takeaway is this: don't make permanent financial decisions based on temporary emotional peaks. A stock that tripled doesn't mean you're an investing savant. A business that failed doesn't mean you should never try again. Zoom out, look at the broader trend. Judge yourself and others with far more nuance than a single outcome allows. Rule 3. The hardest financial skill is defining enough. This might be the most uncomfortable idea in the entire book. We spend enormous energy figuring out how to make money. We spend almost no time figuring out when to stop. Not stop working, but stop wanting more. And that absence of a defined finish line quietly destroys people who are already extraordinarily successful. Consider the cautionary tales. There are people who accumulated tens of millions of dollars and still pushed for more, taking reckless risks, leveraging everything they had, and lost it all. Not because they were stupid, because they never sat down and answered one simple question: how much do I actually need? Without that answer, the goalpost just keeps moving. You hit $1 million and want 5. You hit 5 and want 20. You hit 20 and suddenly feel poor because your new social circle has 50. There is no internal metric for satisfaction, so you keep chasing an external one that can never be satisfied. Housel offers a brutally practical framework. First, decide on a number, a real, concrete number that represents financial security for you. Maybe it's enough to cover your expenses for 5 years without working. Maybe it's a paid-off home and a year of living costs saved. Whatever it is, write it down. Second, stop comparing your financial life to people who are playing a completely different game than you. A tech founder comparing themselves to a hedge fund manager is like a marathon runner comparing their time to a sprinter's. Different games, different rules, different finish lines. The moment you define enough, something remarkable happens. You stop making decisions out of anxiety and start making them out of clarity.
Rule 4. The unstoppable force of compounding. Most people understand compounding intellectually. Money grows on itself. Interest earns interest. You've heard it 1,000 times. But very few people grasp its emotional reality because compounding is boring. It doesn't feel powerful in year 1, year 5, or even year 10. It feels like almost nothing is happening. And then, somewhere around year 15 or 20, it explodes into something that defies intuition. Here's a way to feel this. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. Roughly 99% of that fortune was earned after his 50th birthday, and a staggering portion came after his 60th. If he had stopped investing at 50 and simply retired to play golf, he would be a footnote in financial history, a moderately successful investor. What made him one of the wealthiest humans alive was not just skill, it was time. He started as a child and simply never stopped. 60-plus years of compounding did what no amount of brilliance could accomplish in a shorter window. Now compare this to the mindset most people carry. They want to pick the hot stock, the explosive crypto, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They're hunting for the lightning strike. But wealth isn't built by lightning strikes. It's built by planting a tree in your 20s and watering it patiently for decades, while everyone around you keeps replanting their garden every 6 months, looking for faster results. The math of compounding rewards patience more than intelligence, consistency more than perfection. Start early, stay invested, don't interrupt the process. That's it. That's the entire secret, and almost nobody has the discipline to follow it, because the human brain is wired to notice short-term noise and ignore long-term patterns. Rule 5.
Getting rich and staying rich require completely different skills. This distinction trips up more people than you'd expect. Getting rich is often about boldness, taking a swing, launching the venture, investing aggressively, putting yourself out there. It requires optimism, risk tolerance, and a willingness to be wrong many times before you're right once. But staying rich, that's almost the opposite. Staying rich requires humility, paranoia, frugality, and the ability to say no to things that look exciting. Think of it this way. Earning money puts it in your hands. Keeping money requires you to grip it carefully. And the world is designed, brilliantly, relentlessly designed, to pry it from your fingers. Every advertisement, every limited time offer, every pre-approved credit card that arrives in your mailbox is a small, sophisticated machine engineered to separate you from your savings. The person who earns $1 million and spends $900,000 feels rich, but is actually one emergency away from crisis. The person who earns $60,000 and saves $20,000 is quietly building an invisible fortress that will protect them for decades. Housel emphasizes that true wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that was never spent, the cars not bought, the watches not worn, the vacations not taken, not out of misery, but out of intention. Most people look at outward signals and assume that the person with the luxury car is wealthy. But often, the truly wealthy person is the one driving a 10-year-old sedan with a 7-figure investment portfolio nobody knows about. Earning requires confidence. Retaining requires a kind of quiet, unglamorous discipline that doesn't make for exciting stories at dinner parties, but it builds the kind of security that lets you sleep soundly for the rest of your life.
Rule 6. Embrace the power of doing things many times. There's a principle in statistics called the law of large numbers, and it has a powerful application in personal finance. The core idea is simple. The more times you repeat something, the closer your actual results get to the expected outcome. In investing, this translates to a liberating truth. You don't have to be right every time. You don't even have to be right most of the time. You just need to be right a few times in a big enough way over a long enough horizon. This is something that most people get completely backwards. They agonize over every single investment decision, terrified of making a mistake. They want a perfect track record. But some of the most successful investors in history were wrong more often than they were right. Their wins were simply larger than their losses. A venture capitalist might fund 10 companies, knowing that 7 will fail, 2 will break even, and 1 will return 50 times the original investment. That single winner pays for everything, but only if you stayed in the game long enough for it to show up. The broader lesson applies beyond investing. If you're building a business, launch more things. If you're creating content, publish more consistently. If you're job hunting, apply to more positions. Each individual attempt might fail, but the cumulative effect of many attempts creates a probability engine that eventually produces remarkable outcomes. You're not rolling the dice once and praying. You're rolling them 100 times and trusting the math. Consistency multiplied over time is one of the underrated forces in building wealth.
Rule 7. The true purpose of money is control over your time. Ask yourself this honestly. Why do you want money? Not the socially acceptable answer, the real one. Is it the nice house, the car, the status? Those things matter to people. We're not going to pretend otherwise. But when researchers study what actually makes people happy, not what people think will make them happy, but what actually does, one factor dominates all others: autonomy. The ability to wake up in the morning and decide how you're going to spend your day. Housel calls this the highest dividend money can pay. Not a bigger apartment, not a fancier watch, but the quiet, extraordinary power to say no. No to the toxic boss. No to the commute you hate. No to the obligations that drain your soul. Every dollar you save is a small unit of freedom purchased, and over time, those units accumulate into something transformative, a life where your time belongs to you, not to someone else's agenda. The practical step towards this is unglamorous but life-changing. Build an emergency fund. Not an investment portfolio, not a crypto wallet. A boring, liquid, easily accessible pile of cash that covers 6 months to a year of your living expenses. This single move changes everything psychologically. When you know you can survive without a paycheck for months, you stop tolerating things you shouldn't tolerate. You negotiate from a position of strength. You make career decisions based on growth and fulfillment rather than desperation. Money is not the goal. Money is the tool that buys you the freedom to live on your own terms, and that freedom is worth more than any luxury item ever produced.
Rule 8. Nobody is as impressed by your possessions as you are. You've seen a Lamborghini parked outside a restaurant. You noticed it. You probably admired it for a few seconds. Now, who was driving it? You have absolutely no idea. And that's the entire point. We pour enormous sums of money into status symbols, convincing ourselves that others will notice, admire, and respect us for owning them. But the truth is cold and consistent. People might glance at what you own, but they're too busy thinking about themselves to care for more than a fleeting moment. Housel argues that luxury purchases are among the most destructive financial behaviors because they masquerade as assets while functioning as liabilities. A $500 watch doesn't appreciate. A financed sports car loses value the moment it leaves the lot. A designer wardrobe becomes last season's collection within months. Each of these items pulls money out of your pocket and delivers, in return, a brief dopamine hit and the illusion that you've moved up the world. But real wealth, the kind that compounds, the kind that secures your future, the kind that buys freedom, lives in your brokerage account, not on your wrist. This doesn't mean you should live like a monk. Enjoy your life. Buy things that bring genuine, lasting satisfaction. But before every significant purchase, ask yourself one question. Am I buying this because it genuinely improves my daily experience, or because I want other people to see it? If the honest answer is the latter, put your wallet away. The easiest path to financial struggle is performing wealth you don't actually have. Meanwhile, the people who quietly build real wealth are often invisible, driving modest cars, living in reasonable homes, and watching their net worth grow in silence while everyone else is busy performing success they can't afford. At the heart of all these lessons is one simple truth. Building wealth isn't about being the smartest person. It's about developing the right behavior. Your financial future depends less on your income and more on your habits, patience, and mindset. Those who stay humble, think long-term, avoid unnecessary greed, and trust the power of compounding create lasting wealth. Morgan Housel's message is simple yet powerful. Success with money is driven more by behavior than intelligence. Improve your habits, make thoughtful decisions, and let time work in your favor. That's how real wealth is built, not just for today, but for a lifetime.